Hi, everybody. It's Karen Anderson here with Aortic Hope. This is our week in review. And before we get started, I'm going to ask that you click the like button. You click that subscribe button, which is the bell that'll notify you every time we go live. We currently have a contest going on right now where we've asked the community to help us get to our first 500 subscribers here. And then we will be drawing a name and giving away something. And then we will do it again when we get to our 1,000, and then I probably will be doing something continuously thereon. So please leave a comment, like what you're seeing, share it would be the best so that other people can start receiving the same education and support as you. And the weekend review is really to just help educate others who don't have an opportunity to be part of our Facebook, or they're not checking our website regularly to get the information. Gives you a chance to kind of interact with us and to leave questions and comments and chat and check out all that we have to offer here. So weekend review goes over all of our posts from the week before. And I think I might just be here by myself today, Josh, right? Just you and me.
Yep, it's just us today.
Just us. So we're going to get started. Let's go. All right. So last Monday was our movement for movement. We say this all the time, but we started a movement for movement back in 2020. That was our initiative of the year. And it just so happened to coincide with this little thing called COVID that started 3 months into the year or 2 months into the year. 3 months. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the third month of the year. And it just worked out perfectly because people all are already a little fearful to get moving after they've had a dissection or they're diagnosed with an aneurysm. So we just wanted to kind of incorporate some articles and information to help everybody feel a little bit more inspired and comfortable to move according to your doctor's advice. So last Monday, uh, we reiterate all the time that doing nothing is still doing something. And a lot of us simply need some support to get moving, and whatever that means for you. But whatever you are doing right now, whether it's right now, or last Monday, we asked everybody to kind of stop and take a moment and stretch, move your body a little bit, walk around the house, go to the mailbox, clean out a cabinet, fold some laundry, whatever it is, just move. And I know for those of you with smartwatches, which is pretty much just about everybody, if you haven't moved after a certain period of time, your watch is dinging you saying, hey, get up and move. So that's kind of what this is, just a little bit of a more of a motivator to get you going. But moving isn't only good for your body, it's also good for your mind. And according to the article written in Permanente Medicine, titled Regular Exercise Benefits Both Mind and Body. This was a psychiatrist who's explaining this. The psychiatrist says that neurotransmitters called serotonin, which is a hormone that stabilizes our mood, and norepinephrine, don't ask me to say that word again because I barely got it out the first time. That is a hormone that actually increases your heart rate and helps break down fat. That also increases during exercise. So clearly, I should be exercising more. But norepinephrine, I think I said it right, and serotonin are a great pair together. Together, these chemicals help combat depressive episodes and actually boost alertness and energy. Exercise increases levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine in the brain, just like medications can. So, who really knew that if you're exercising, it's just as good as taking in medication to help you feel good? But if you wanted to learn more about that, you could check it out in the article, which we're about to do briefly. But really, whatever your doctor's orders are, follow them. Just try something, get up and move. I know a lot of us are scared that if we have an aneurysm, it can actually grow if we're working out our heart muscle, but it's a good thing to work out the heart muscle. And it's time to work out, it's time to work through the fear, and together we can do this. And let's talk about this article a little bit. But activating the happy hormone, which were some of these hormones that were just explained in the article. Physical activity actually activates the release of that neurotransmitter called dopamine, which is referred to as the happy hormone. And dopamine is released in your brain when you do things you enjoy. And this can be eating your favorite foods, it can be shopping, it can be engaging in sex, and yes, exercising. Dopamine creates a cycle of motivation, reward, and reinforcement. And when we exercise, dopamine tells our brain that it's a pleasurable experience and that we should keep engaging in this activity. However, I do not think I have any dopamine in my body. I'm going to actually probably have to become more regular at this to see if this works for me, but I'm going to trust I'm going to trust science and say that it must work because I get on the exercise train and then something goes wonky in the body and then I get off the exercise train. But let's just look at an example here. Let's say you're jogging. Jogging is going to be your favorite form of exercise. So your brain might actually increase the dopamine as you start to even lace up your shoes, or if you take a few minutes to stretch before you begin. When you start jogging, a flood of dopamine actually hits your brain and reinforces your craving to engage in this activity, to engage in jogging. Your brain actually remembers this flood of dopamine and associates it with jogging, thus encouraging you to jog in the future. Okay, it's all clicking now. If I would just go to the gym, then maybe the dopamine will find its way out. And then when I put my tennis shoes on to go to the gym, my body will say, oh, we're going to the gym. This is a good thing. I know it does it when I get ready to lay out at the beach. It gets very excited. Or when I'm
Uh,
going to the spa.
Karen, I don't think that's how that works. I
Well,
think
when I'm going to go to the
the
spa.
reward of the dopamine hit is the reward of the actual exercise, right? There's a
Yeah.
bunch of people that blog about sitting in the car for 30 minutes before getting into the gym, like psyching themselves up. Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. Like just getting to the gym is step one, and it's not just putting your shoes on. It's literally like
Yeah.
just drive yourself to the gym. Okay, now we're here. I'm at the gym. I'm looking at the gym. I came all this way. I'm dressed up to go into the gym. Why am I sitting in the car? Why do I not want to go in there and just get this workout in, right? And
Yeah.
so it's that journey of getting in the car, getting the car to the gym, and then there's that fight. And they put on their most aggressive music. They drink a bunch of pre-workout, which gets them all jacked up and ready to go. And then they walk in there and they go to war with themselves.
Oh, no. I don't think that's in me. I think because I have always looked at working out as the punishment you pay for eating food. And that's the problem. Is I
Yeah,
probably need to look at it as more beneficial for the overall body. It is not a punishment for what you eat. Probably what I need to
I
do.
mean, there's just
Yeah.
the benefit of that the thing about it is you could go to the gym every day for your entire life and not lose weight because you're
Right.
not that it's really 80% diet.
Yeah, it really is.
So
This I do know. But one of the things they mention here that probably should really pay attention to, and most people in the community should, based upon what they're cleared to do, is that exercise is actually a form of treatment. So they say here that the I can't say these words, the neurotransmitter, which is serotonin, and that's the hormone that stabilizes our mood, and norepinephrine, which is the hormone that stabilizes your heart rate and helps break down fat. It increases during exercise. So, norepinephrine and serotonin are great together. The chemicals actually help combat depressive episodes and boost energy and alertness. Exercise actually increases the levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine in the brain, just like medications can. And in fact, they say it's a great way to treat mild to moderate mental health disorders and medications with their potential side effects. So, clearly there's a lot of benefits and they go in here as what actually counts as exercise. So I totally am into walking outside, totally dig the idea of dancing. Yeah, there's a few of these I'm like, probably not going to happen, although I will say mopping or vacuuming is definitely an exercise for me. uh, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention actually recommend that you get at least 150 minutes in a week of moderate intensity for workout. But we know in this community, moderate intensity means something sometimes very different than it does for the general population. But I think we're getting it. I think we get it. I think, like you just said, Josh, if you just target short bursts, short intervals, and don't make it be this massive thing that you have to conquer, and maybe the gym offers a lot of different things. It could probably offers multiple different classes. I know at mine, they have a gentle warm water class. So it's anything working out against water adds an extra level, an extra element of increasing your heart rate. So I guess that's my 2023. And maybe I'll just start off driving to the gym tomorrow.
right, and then fight with yourself.
I
In the
will.
meantime, let's say hi to Karen Heichel, Mike Sylvester, and Bo. Bo's always here.
Hey, Karen. Hey, Mike. And hello, Bo. What are your thoughts? Type in some of your thoughts about this first article about exercising and Now I'm going to have a fight with myself when I drive over to the gym. I know I'm supposed to go with my husband, like starting this week, Tuesday and Thursday mornings. It's like getting up. Ugh,
You're gonna
and it's
get up anyway.
cold. I'm going to get up after I would have gotten up, and it's cold. I guess, you know what? I'll go if the car's already warmed up. That's easier to just throw on clothes, get out the door to the warmer car.
Right? You
And
know
then,
what?
you know what?
We have this
It's going to be
mindfulness
tough.
class going on. You can just be mindful of the cold.
I could be mindful of the cold.
Hmm.
I could just put on some earbuds with some great music because I know when I get there, I'm just going to stare at the floor like, I don't even know. Do I go to the bike? Do I go on the treadmill? I'll just stand there with my heart racing because I don't know what to do. That's exercise. I
Well,
don't
see,
know.
I'm happy if you just walk on that treadmill for 45 straight minutes at 3.5 miles an hour, just staring at your
So,
phone. That's the thing about it. Every part of it's boring. You go to the gym, you put the weights on the bar, you lower the
yeah.
bar, you raise the bar, you put the weights away. It's all boring.
I'm going to just take like the entry level, like dance class. Then, 45 minutes goes by really fast.
Yeah,
That I
100%.
think I could do. I'll find something that
Bo
I like to do.
says you just have to set your mind to do something and do it. Just like on 23 January, I start my chemo and radiation treatments. I don't want to do it, but I have to. LOL. He's laughing out loud at us right
I know. No, he's laughing out loud at me. Knowing Bo, he's laughing with me, but secretly somewhere he's probably laughing at me, which is totally okay because I'm laughable at whatever.
now.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. You know, these things, they do happen. All right. I'm going on. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. I exercised my hand and I'm moving on. Moving on to topic Tuesday. COVID numbers there actually are on the rise again. We are hearing different news outlets talk about how hospitals are getting hit with spikes. And it's probably also because you've got the flu, we've got RSV, various forms of pneumonia. They're all hitting everybody at once. But according to this article from Healthline written by Eileen Bailey titled High Blood Pressure May Increase Risk of Severe COVID 19, researchers actually said that people with high blood pressure have a higher risk of severe illness or death from COVID 19. And I know a lot of people in the community specifically ask questions about this very topic. And I know it can be an inflammatory topic. Vaccinate, don't vaccinate. What does it all mean? I think the next time we have a doctor on, we need to learn the mechanics of how, when you have a virus, that especially depending on how your body reacts to it, how does your body actually react to ridding itself of the virus? And I know in COVID 19, at least in the beginning, people's heart rates were going up like 120, 140 at rest. And that's not something that I think people in this community really need or should be experiencing. So that's something to keep in mind, but discuss with your own physician. But having normal blood pressure appears to not only be very beneficial for our community, but it's also very important when it comes to COVID 19. So let's check out this article a little bit. I know that some of the things that they were talking about was about blood pressure medications and did it affect COVID 19? And some of those results are in here. But when they did their study, and there's a lot of information here in this study, as you can see, um, what they determined is that people with high blood pressure have a higher risk of illness or disease from COVID 19. And then, if you add the type of medication that's used by the participants, they did determine that it didn't appear to have an effect on the impact or have an impact at all. Experts say that having normal blood pressure is, as we know, good for overall health, as well as specific conditions such as a risk for heart attack or stroke, but it is associated with a higher risk of COVID 19. So that is one of the things that you might want to talk with your physician about, especially determining on how much you're being observed for your blood pressure and the ranges you need to be in. So they talked about how of the people studied, 48% of severe or fatal COVID 19 cases, they had high blood pressure, while 25% of the people with COVID, um, while 25% of all people with COVID had the condition. So some of the things they also found was that the risk increased for people with uncontrolled blood pressure despite any treatment. And the odds of COVID 19 did not change based upon the medication given to treat the high blood pressure. So there's a lot of stats and numbers in this article, and I think it's beneficial to read as far as did medications have an effect on the COVID 19, reducing the risk of severe COVID 19. Again, we're not going to get into all those details because it is a very personal experience, especially for you and your physician. But uh, I'm interested to know of the people that are watching, what have you heard? What are your thoughts? I know for me personally, when I had COVID back in 2020, my heart rate did go up exponentially just while laying in the bed. Now, certain spikes for short periods of time, not necessarily going to wear me out or wear my aorta out, but it's definitely something that they had to manage and they had to look at. And I can tell you that I've been sick, pretty sick twice since then, COVID negative, flu negative, and it again did the same thing. And I think it's just because my body's trying to fight something, and it definitely wore me out because your medication is working against the effects of the virus. So all really important things I think to think about. Anybody have a thought on that, Josh?
Oh, well, they might be a little bit getting it to us.
Got to type it, get into it, and send it to us. But, then you get into the whole conversation about vaccines. And I know people can have allergies to vaccines. And I can't, I still try to wrap my mind around why this vaccine is so much more controversial than any other vaccine that we need to take. I'm still pending to get my shingles, but I do know I don't want shingles. So I'd rather have the shot than actually get shingles. So, and while I know that the shot won't prevent me from getting shingles, I at least won't get it as bad as I could without the shot. Because shingles is not something that you want to have. So, yeah, it's a lot of thoughts. And that was a very recent article that came out, and that came out in 2023 in January. So, food for thought for people in our community when it comes to COVID and it comes to higher blood pressure. If anybody has a thought and they catch up with us, we'll go back to that for sure.
Hmm.
But we're going to go on to Therapeutic Thursday. And with that, I'm going to welcome our new social media administrator, Jessica McCracken, otherwise known as Jess McBez on Facebook. She is now going to be taking over our Therapeutic Thursday and our Feel Good Friday, or whatever name she wants to assign to those, our Thursday and Friday posts. But as she says here, this is her first time sharing as a social media coordinator, and she was so excited for this volunteer role and to share her passion of all things related to emotional and mental health on Thursdays. She looks forward to getting to know the community better and helping to lead everyone towards a healthier and happier mental and emotional state. And she has been an educator of 20 years and a trained life, wellness, and spiritual coach. She knows the importance of taking care of mental and emotional health. It's just as important as taking care of our physical health. And it's been about 4.5 years since her type A dissection. She's done a lot of mindfulness and a lot of meditation to achieve where she is today. She included an article that was titled Mindfulness Worked as Well for Anxiety as Drugs in a Study. This article shares many tips and tricks and facts about mindfulness as a way of controlling your stress and anxiety instead of traditional drugs and medications. You will see much more from Jess regarding mindfulness, meditation, and overall mental well being in Therapeutic Thursday posts. Jess looks forward to getting to know everyone in the community and sharing tips and tricks that you can actually implement at home, even for just a few minutes a day. So please feel free to reach out to us through info@aortichope.org if you'd like some more information about topics, or you have questions, or anything that you would like information on regarding mental and emotional health. And she looks forward to hearing from you. So we're going to take a look at that article. Where did it go? I'm not too sure. Let's take a look at it here. See if I can pull it up. Okay,
Mike's got a statement here. He
please,
says,
Mike.
"Got lucky and didn't get COVID. My wife got it, and almost everyone at the post office where I work got it. Some multiple times. Last day of work I missed was my last aortic surgery in May of 2020. Trooper.
Wow.
Mike is a trooper. I think Mike
Yes,
gets like, if there's 365 days in a year, Mike gets 60 of those days off. Pretty sure that's the math.
amazing. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, COVID's no joke, no fun. I mean, people that I know that have just been able to stay out of its path for the last, almost 3 years are now finally getting it. I think it's just going to be one of those things that everybody's going to eventually get it, which is kind of what we wanted, right? We wanted this herd immunity thing to happen, and I think it's going to happen. And the positive is now it's not as deadly as it was in 2020, and we know a lot more about it. But In this community and in many communities, it's really not something that you want to tempt to see if you're going to get a mild case or a major case. So, all right, so let's talk about the mindfulness and how it worked as well for anxiety as drug in a study. Uh, I think it's pretty interesting because we're actually taking a mindfulness class. It is a beta test here with Aortic Hope, and we hope to be able to expand the number of offerings we can have. But it is so interesting to really see this being measured scientifically as an alternative to medications, because I know I don't know anybody that likes to put these medications in their body. And to have something that is, it really is a lovely, interesting experience, be able to be the alternative to that. I think it's great. But the study that they did tested a widely used mindfulness program that includes 2.5 hours of class and weekly and 45 minutes of daily practice at home. And the participants were randomly assigned to the program or daily use of a generic drug that's sold under the brand name Lexapro for depression and anxiety. So after 2 months, anxiety was, as measured on a severity scale, seemed to decline by about 30% in both groups and continued to decrease during the next following 4 months. So that's interesting that even just doing mindfulness without the medication, it decreased the same as those that were on a medication. So, that's offers some options there for people, something for you to talk about with your doctor or your therapist. But if you go into this article, it's really going to give you a lot more information about this study, about their findings, and some additional tips as well. So, thoughts about that? Mindfulness for me has been a journey. We've had two classes. It's such a journey, but it is a journey. It's a journey, two different reasons. One, it's very hard for me to stay present, very hard sometimes. And two, sometimes very hard for me to stay awake. So I'm sure that's probably normal. But I think my takeaway and what I've realized is that we're all mindful at some point or another, many times in our lives. We just didn't call it being mindful. And for me, I think those moments are when it's something you really don't want to forget. We use our senses to brand it in our minds. So if you're on a favorite vacation or you're eating amazing food or you're seeing an incredible concert with your favorite artist or a play, anything, you might utilize your senses to visually check everything out and just, I'm going to soak this all in. I'm going to capture a mental photograph. You might use your hearing to pay attention to the sounds that are going on around you, your sense of touch to just feel things that are around you, or smell or taste. And you don't even realize you're doing it. You're just thinking, I don't want to forget where I am right now. And I'm just going to soak this moment in. And that's being mindful. And I know I've done that many times in my life, because there are places that I have not forgotten. There are things that I've seen that just struck me, and I wanted to remember and savor that moment. And I think that that's mindfulness, is savoring and being present in the moment. And as I'm actively practicing this, I am struggling against falling asleep because I'm so profoundly relaxed, or I'm struggling against the outside noise and being distracted. And that's a hard thing for me, for sure. So, interested to know anybody's perspectives on utilizing this as an alternative to medication when it comes to stress and anxiety. Any thoughts on that, my friend Josh, or Mike, or Karen, or Bo?
Again, they're on a delay, so we'll have to give them a chance to respond.
What is your thought?
I've always been interested in the study and the practices of mindfulness.
Hmm.
I'm a martial artist of like decades, and so we tend to do some meditation anyway. And there's a thing like you want to meditate in the beginning of class to get your mind ready for, you're about to do something, right? And so if you're distracted and you're not paying attention, you might fall into people or hit somebody or you're just flailing about. And so you just kind of, calm the mind and get ready for that. And then, sometimes we meditate after really hard classes, right? And you're soaked, right? You're soaked. There's just salt everywhere at this point. And but like there were lessons there, and there's a reason why you got to the point that your legs are burning, right? And
Hmm.
so, again, quiet the mind and reflect, right? And so, in those two practices, there's just like that one aspect of mindfulness, which is to kind of check in with yourself. How is everything feeling? Is your ankle, did you
Right.
roll it that bad? How bad is your knee feeling right now? right? And then you're, like the pain literally just kind of subsides because you're paying attention and
Hmm.
you're like, oh, my brain just wanted me to know that my knee was turned a little bit and it's not terrible.
Hmm.
Things like that. But to bring it outside of that, and like, it's like the homework. He's like, pick something mundane and bring mindfulness to it. Like, when was the last time you paid attention to brushing your teeth, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, never, honestly. I never. It's an activity. You wake up, it's like the first thing I do. I get that taste out of my mouth from sleep, and then it's into the shower, right? And I don't, and
Hmm.
all of this is happening, and I'm on autopilot, just like he's talking about. He's like, how much time are you going to live in autopilot? And now I take that's my like, I'm bringing mindfulness to brushing my teeth, and it's like, am I doing a good job of brushing my teeth? And now I have that existential crisis going on.
Yeah, right, exactly. But you're right. It's living on autopilot. And while I'm learning this, I'm also wrestling with how many moments did I live on autopilot that I let just go by that you can't recapture?
Yeah.
How many moments, were you with was I with my family and just wasn't paying attention because I was on my phone, or I was, I had my earbuds in, I'm listening to music, I'm not part of a conversation. And I know I can't beat myself up for any of that. But you're right. I think I did it again today. When I was getting my hair done, and there were moments where I felt some burning on my scalp. And instead of, letting myself go to 0 to 60, because there was really nothing tragic about it at the minute, I just went into the sensation. And next thing you know, it was gone. It's like I used to say, you just give yourself over to science. When I would go to the ER, I would just give myself to those that are the doctors and nurses, and just I can only control what I can control. But this is different. This is being in that moment with whoever and is around me. And it's a very different experience. It's very different. It's interesting. Like all that Mr. Miyagi stuff that you don't know.
Right? Here's another
You know?
example. Dentist work. Anytime I have to go to the dentist, my dentist is always like, "You're a very good patient. You sit patiently. You don't make a lot of noises. You just sit, and he's like, you don't do anything. You just breathe,
Yeah.
right?" And I remember, like, as a kid, okay, when I would go to the dentist, they would try to bring the needle to do work, and I'd be like, "No, no needles." And they were like, "Kid, you don't know what you're doing." And then they would bring my mom in, and my mom would be like, "No, he says no needles every single time. He said
Uh-huh.
he says you're just gonna hurt my gums in order to hurt my gums, so just hurt my gums and be done with it."
That's what you would say every
Yeah, and
time.
I was a kid, and they wouldn't
Okay.
believe me, and I would get
Yeah.
stitches in my head several times as a kid because I am reckless. And
Right.
so we go in there, and again, they're gonna do some stitches, and I would just sit there
Hmm.
and just endure the pain at a young age. But it was like, what are you gonna do, right? Like, you're gonna stab me 8 times to give me 12 stitches?
Yeah.
Just give me the stitches.
Right. That's crazy.
Right? And then that's me as a very young kid on the scalp wounds constantly. Fast
Yeah.
forward 30 years, and I take an
Hmm.
elbow to the eyebrow, and it slices my eyebrow open. Okay? And I'm
Yeah.
I'm in the ER, and I'm waiting for the stitches and everything. And I look at the lady, and I'm like, "No, no, no. I know this is gonna sound weird." I'm like, "Don't worry about the numbing. Just give me the stitches." And she goes, "Oh, I would totally just give you the stitches, knowing what it is that brought you in here, because I was training at the time."
Hmm.
She goes, "But I'm gonna have to pluck some of your eyebrow out." And I went, "Well, go ahead and pluck the first one and let me evaluate."
Mm. God,
Okay,
that's
so now I'm
insane.
crying in the ER because she pulled an eyebrow out. And I was like, "Just numb it, stab me as much as you want."
The
Numb the
eyebrow
whole
hair.
thing. Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's
It hurt
hysterical.
so much.
Well, I would think pulling out an eyebrow hair near an open wound definitely would hurt, but that does kind of make me laugh, considering so many women get their eyebrows plucked and waxed, like,
Right?
every
Exactly,
other month.
right? I was like,
Yeah,
stab me in the face. Do it.
hysterical. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, no, nope. I know people that have colonoscopies without being put to sleep.
Right?
I don't, that's how it was
Mindfulness.
always done. Crazy. No,
Mindfulness, yeah.
no, no, no. I'd be mindful in an MRI. I like counting the sounds I'm hearing. I fall asleep. That's what's happening with purposeful mindfulness. I'm falling asleep. If I don't realize I'm doing it, I'm okay. But if I have to sit here and but yet I can also sit and just ground myself. I just need to work on the distraction level.
Yeah.
And I think then my anxiety and stress would go down according to this article. What I need to do, what it's saying I need to do. All right. If any thoughts come up from anybody, please let me know. We are going to, that was my article. Nope, this was a different one, I think. Right? Yeah.
We're on to Feel Good Friday.
Yeah, this was it. Look how fast that happened. Feel Good Friday, second article written by Jess, and she titles it Feel Good Friday, Aortic Hope, and Mindfulness is on My Mind. I guess it was a part 2 to her Therapeutic Thursday. Mindfulness is a huge part of Jess's routine, and it actually allows her to feel really good and focus on present moments, which we were just talking about. And by focusing on the potential worries of the future, and also, by not focusing on the potential worries of the future and also not dwelling on the past, she actually can stay grounded in gratitude for the moment right now. And that's what Jen Fernjack also talks about when she talks about having an attitude for gratitude. And it's all, God, it's all coming together. It's all intertwined. But in the quote here, mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. We actually talked about that the other night, and that was stated by John, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kabat-Zinn. Being mindful about so many parts of our day is important, and spending time focusing on the present moment is so beneficial for your physical and mental health. Many benefits are listed in this article, so check it out, and we're going to go through some of them right now. But uh, and this is all explained by Professor John Kabat-Zinn. Some of the benefits, and so one of them would be that mindfulness improves well-being overall. And I think we've talked a lot about that now, and I think it helps you process things you've experienced in the past and kind of supports, as it says here, the overall attitude that helps contribute to just having a satisfied life. In addition, mindfulness helps to improve your physical health. And we've talked about that now twice. If greater well being isn't enough of an incentive, scientists have actually discovered that mindfulness techniques help improve physical health in a number of ways. It actually can treat heart disease and lower blood pressure, reduces chronic pain, relieves stress, improves sleep. I know that for sure, and alleviates gastrointestinal difficulties. All benefits of being mindful. Mindfulness improves your mental health. And actually, in recent years, psychotherapists have actually turned to mindfulness meditation as an important element in the treatment of a number of disorders, including depression, substance abuse, eating disorders, couples conflicts, anxiety disorders, and obsessive compulsive disorder. So these are all techniques that are scientifically proven, a lot of times being paid for by insurance. So all of that makes me feel even better about doing this myself. So it goes into a lot of mindfulness techniques in this article about how you can do basic mindfulness meditations, the ways to breathe, going through your body sensations, experiencing different sensory sensations, and how to do it without judgment. Meaning, if you feel something that doesn't necessarily feel good, not to dwell and judge on that, but to just experience what that feeling actually is. Don't assign and label things to it. Like you're frustrated, or even if that you feel joy, just accept the presence of these emotions without actually um, bringing too much attention to it, if that makes sense. Um, accept it without having judgment. Also, that talks about urge surfing here. Cope with cravings. This being mindful can help you do that, and learning how to let the cravings pass. And I've been trying to do that recently too, and didn't realize I was being mindful. You know, I have been doing a no Coca-Cola. It's very hard for me. I want this craving out of my system by the summer, which is when I want to drink it the most. And it's hard because I know where to get really good fountain Coke with perfect crunchy little ice. And when I go to have lunch, which would be the perfect time to drink it, I'm not even sure it's happening so fast, but I'm just taking a deep breath and I'm deciding, let me just try water first. And then by the time I'm into the water, I forgot that I wanted the Coke, which is great because having pump head or having gone through open heart surgery, your memory is so shot now. So I forget that I wanted the Coke a lot faster, which I guess is good. Different form of mindfulness, but definitely check out this article. There's a lot of great information on why and what you can do. Basically, in the basic sense to help you get started. And you're probably doing a lot of this now. You're just not even aware. But if you bring attention to it and you become more aware, you might see a lot more of these physical and emotional and mental benefits while you're doing it.
Right
Friday.
on, right on.
Right on.
I want to pay a little bit of attention to the urges thing.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I started eating once a day. Okay. And it turns out that your body is going to experience that request for food, hunger,
Hmm.
very strongly on a regular cycle. And that regular cycle is anything that you choose. So if you choose to eat twice a day, your body gets accustomed to that. What's
Okay.
shocking is that it only takes 4 days,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
So 4 days of I am very hungry. Why am I not eating? Hangry, hangry, right? 4 days later, it becomes a I could eat now, but I'm not hungry. And that
Hmm.
happens for breakfast, that happens for lunch, right? And so basically the first what is it like whatever the math is from 9 to about 6. I don't eat anything. I just drink water and every now and then I have coffee. But
Okay.
it was four very hard, like very because I mean you're only paying attention to it. Your brain is like we need to be eating right now, but you
Hmm.
don't. You really don't, and it's fascinating. After
So
that,
you're not even doing intermittent fasting.
oh,
You're
that is
just one
intermittent
meal a day,
fasting.
same
That is
time.
intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Well, the
But you're
thing
limiting
is
it to
like,
one meal.
yeah, you eat so much that like I don't know. I mean, let's just say munchies they play a role in that later in the day,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
you're not distracted in any way, shape, or form by the fact that you haven't eaten in any way 4 days later.
Yep.
And so, like, with that came like, I like to work at a specific level of intensity. And
Hmm.
because there's no break for lunch and there's no crash from post eating, that I can get to the end of that, whatever it is that I'm working on, with all of my attention, right? And so
Okay.
when we're talking about flow state, there's literature that talks about how long it takes for you to get into that moment of now I'm doing exactly what it is that I'm supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
My mind is attuned to it. My hands are doing exactly what I needed to do. All thoughts are producing something. That flow
Hmm.
state. You can only hold that flow state for a certain amount of time, but it takes 90 minutes to get there, right? And
Okay.
so what really it's almost like a flight. Like the first 45 minutes that you're working, you're grinding your way into a flow state. Now you're going to be in flow state for the next 40 or so minutes and then you're descending out of it. So you can't even tax on it as much as you want. But
Okay.
now take that same idea and throw a lunch into it and that means that whatever task you're trying to do in the morning, like right up until you have lunch, that's what you're
Yeah.
going to be concentrating on. Then you have lunch, then it
Right.
goes through the crash, and then it's going to be whatever activity you're doing in the evening, and then you're going to put all of your attention into that. And then you're going to end
Hmm.
that, you're going to come out of your flow state, and it's time to eat again. And then it's relaxation and rest. And so by not having that lunch, I can freely go into working very hard, closing up that
Hmm.
project or whatever that is, wind that down, take a small break, and then go into the next project and just keep riding the wave of a flow without a crash in the middle of the day. So instead of
That's
only
very
getting
interesting.
instead of only getting two hard levels of workout, I can I can go in and out of it 4 times
Hmm.
before I eat
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
That's very interesting. But what you're saying is it's also very true because I've experienced that similarly and differently. Because if you're in the hospital, so
Hmm.
having had Crohn's disease, or many times I was in the hospital on NPO, so nothing by mouth for days.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it is by day three, it's you're hangry, like you said.
Hmm.
By day four, it's like as long as I have an ice chip, I'm fine. If I can drink some water, but I'm not having solids, it's fine. And by day five or six or seven, by the time they give you broth and some jello, you're like, it's really not a big deal anymore. You've gone so long not eating that it's not like you're craving a steak. You just want something that tastes different than water in your mouth.
Oh yeah.
But it is different because your body does adapt. It just does. It
Hmm.
just does. Hmm. You gave me something to think about. Yeah, for many different reasons, even just outside of, but mainly for what you just talked about, how you can just be more productive, just having that break of everything you were doing, and now you have to put food in.
Hmm.
But there are many people that think you should eat 6 times a day.
I mean, it all works out.
Yeah,
There's marathon runners that only eat once a day. Ultra marathon
right.
runners, they run 200 miles in their
Yeah,
marathons, and they just they work out the entire day, and
yeah.
then they just throw food down. Ironman triathletes, they work out their
Hmm.
entire day, and then they throw their food down.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's not that it's hitting
crazy.
them from a nutritional level or not.
Right. It's
Karen
not. It's
Karen
not
says,
that.
but can we do these types of fasts? And that's a question that I've asked inside of the support groups whenever diet and
Yeah.
exercise comes up. And my question has always been, it depends on what your reaction is to your morning medicine, I would assume.
True. I
Like,
have to eat with my
yeah.
medicines for GI issues, but that is a good question. If you have a blood sugar issue, could play into it,
Hmm.
and you don't want certain, it's going to be something you have to discuss with your doctor. I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be, that's one of the nuances of this, of aortic disease, that's
Hmm.
just so different for everybody. But it's something to talk about.
Yeah. I mean,
Definitely something to
it's
talk about.
definitely worth looking into.
Sure.
Especially
Yeah.
if you have a terrible diet, right? Like,
Right.
imagine taking you're going to have 2 servings of French fries, and now you're only
Yeah.
having one, and just that one change alone, and what kind of ramification that might have.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, just changing the 250 calorie can of Coke made a huge difference. Huge difference. There was a crash that happened initially, a lot of fatigue,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
and then it's just
Caffeine
that's just
withdrawal
gone.
and sugar.
Yeah,
You're cutting sugar at the same time.
I am a lot of it. And my go-to drink outside of water is iced tea, which I'm trying more and more to just only do decaf tea with stevia. But if I do have something like from the grocery store, it's a diet iced tea. I just
Hmm.
prefer it now. I can't do all the sweetness anymore. I can't do it. It's too much sugar. So
For
much.
teas, I drink green tea.
So does my mom. She
Yeah,
loves it.
and
And I don't know.
like I love honey and green tea.
Yeah, she does a ginseng honey green
Ginseng's very
tea.
good. Ginseng's very
Yeah.
good.
I'll have to taste it. I'll have to see. I've been doing it's been a diet uh Arnold Palmer. So it's a little iced tea, a little lemonade. It's really tasty. And I do like peach tea. So I'll do some of those too, the diet peach teas. But again, should you be having all that aspartame? No. Stevia would be better. Just so much information out there. But to answer Karen's question, something you should discuss with your physician for sure.
100%. 100%.
For sure. All right, we are moving on to Survivor Series Saturday. So this was the second one of the month, and this is our general post, kind of like a call to arms with everybody. The community wants to hear from you. They do. Just like initially when you joined us, you were craving to hear from other people. So on certain Saturdays of the month, typically every other Saturday, we share stories from the community. This could be from a caregiver's perspective, or it can be from a survivor's perspective. And survivor can mean watch and wait diagnosis, or you've had a dissection. But there's even been a couple stories that have come from individuals who have lost loved ones and friends to the disease as well. And there's some very specific reasons in hearing these types of stories. But we're asking you to consider being the shining star in someone's life by submitting your story of survival. And it can also be your story of caring for someone with aortic disease. We really want to focus on the symptoms that you experienced because it seems to be very different from patient to patient. Some people have searing, chest tearing pains, and some people have no symptoms at all. They just felt a little off. So, this is important. We want to know the process of your diagnosis, and we will be sharing your video or your blog with Think Aorta US and use it as a tool to kind of teach emergency room physicians and first responders why it's so important for them to think about the aorta. And if you're interested in sharing your story, there's a link in this post. But if you've also participated already in our survivor story, there's a link to our Where Are They Now? And that kind of does the follow up. We want to see what you're doing since you were first a survivor. Like, what are you doing now in your life? Do you have favorite hobbies? Did you go back to work? Did you have another surgery? We kind of want to know it. We want to know it all. So it's important for you to consider sharing your story. Again, the boldest and bravest will go live like I am now on our YouTube channel, which allows the community to actually interact with you and ask questions and have this ongoing dialogue. Then you can also do a pre recorded. message. So if you fearful you're going to get very emotional and you might want to, take a break, or if you want to do costume changes, we've had that before, then do a pre-recorded video. And also, if you would like to submit it in written format, we will take that as well. Just make sure when you submit your story that you are including a picture of yourself too at some follow-up point, because we'd like to have that picture in preparation of marketing your story to the public. So that was our Survivor Series Saturday.
Karen has an excellent point to make. Some people
Please make your
have
point.
some people have no memory of anything, and they wouldn't know
That
what
is
to
true.
say. And so, hearing
Yeah.
what happened to others is putting into perspective what happened to her.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. And that's where the caregiver can come in, even though they may have little to no knowledge on what their loved one was experiencing, unless it was shared with them. Um, Being able to fill in those gaps is important. And you do make a good point. Hearing other people's stories helps sometimes fill in your own personal gaps, even though it's not what happened to you. It
Hmm.
helps you make a little bit more sense of what and why you're missing some of those stories, some of those points to your story.
Yeah, she says
Yeah.
she's been told she's very lucky not to remember, but family has helped in fill in those blanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bo
And the
says,
other way, oh, so go ahead, Bo. Yes.
Bo says, I'll have another story to tell here soon. LOL. I'm gonna make fun of him using LOL. LOL, Bo. With
LOL, Bell. Yeah.
with
Bo
what I'm
will.
dealing with now. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's gunning in for the chemo, just
Yep. Yep.
pushing through
There
the
will be a whole other story. There's
100%.
been some people out here, what they experienced prior to a dissection or what they experienced after. It's, what people will say, but you had an aortic dissection. So but I don't know that you should be comparing one ailment to another. I think just like you can't compare people, each ailment is just bad in itself. It's never great. You just
No,
handle it differently.
we're gonna get the
Yeah.
dissection survivors experience with chemo. I mean, that's
Yes.
a thing.
We've Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a thing. We've had people typically dissect after chemo. It'll be interesting to hear someone's perspective of chemo after dissection.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's different. Yep, very interesting. Well, as always, Bo, we do wish you the very best. We will be thinking of you, and we hope that you end up having a lot of success through what you're experiencing right now, which I'm going to
Yep. I hope it's
on
easy,
that.
easy peasy.
Yes, easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. All right, that led us to Sunday, Seatbelt Sunday. So we are very pleased to announce our continued partnership with Help Belts Medical Alert seatbelt covers. These are phenomenal. If you just check out these pictures here. Uh, it's a $15 donation for each belt, 20 if you are international, but you get to pick your color and you get to pick your saying. So these seatbelt covers are actually they're really bright and they're very eye catching. And the covers have a very thin, comfortable fabric. So they're not bulky. They sit right across the strap at the top. They Velcro on easily. They're about 9 by 2 once folded. They actually have a pocket of a plastic pocket on the inside where they provide a card and an extra one that you can print or write all of your medical information on, your allergies, the prescriptions you're taking. I suggest you do all of that in pencil because things change. But any important information, names and phone numbers, all goes on the inside of this belt. And we actually have new belts for this year that were requested by the Lowy Dietz Foundation out of Canada. They requested us to print some of our belts off in French. So we have a stock of French, we have a stock of English, and we will be taking Spanish as requested. But you can choose your belt to be in red, black, or yellow, depending on what matches your car. I know it's important for some. And you do have a choice on a bunch of different sayings. You can choose abdominal aortic aneurysm, thoracic aortic aneurysm, aortic dissection survivor, Marfan syndrome, Lowy Dietz syndrome, or just a general medical alert, which is why we ask you all to share this post on your personal pages, because I guarantee you, you have friends or family in your personal sphere who have a medical condition that could use to be wearing this belt. So they could even order the one that's just general medic alert. And first responders are kind of familiar with this now. This is a buzz. It's been a buzz for many years. So they know to keep their eye out and look for it. And it doesn't hurt to buy more than one, especially if you are a passenger in one car and you have a second car and you're the driver in the other. Also, consider buying them for your teens who will be driving soon or heading off to college with a car. If they have Marfan syndrome or another condition, you might want to consider making sure that's in your car. It'll give you a peace of mind as well. But you can make the donation. The information's all on the form, and we'll go ahead and send those out to you. But they're just wonderful. I mean, I've got one for every one of my cars. I'm in my mother's car often. I've got one in her car. So it just, in addition to my medic alert bracelet, this is really the first thing. If you're in trouble and somebody walks over to your car, they're going to see this first and foremost before they get to your wrist. After once you're taking a look at you, they will come across any medical ID jewelry that you have on, whether it's a dog tag or it's a wrist bracelet. But this is really a great way to catch the eye of a first responder, whichever seat you're sitting in. And you can just wipe them down with a cloth if it gets dirty with makeup or with just dirt in general. But they're wonderful. Something for you to consider. They are on our Hope Shops tab on our website. That is Sunday. That's Sunday. All
Yeah.
right, let's talk
Okay.
about
Hold on.
some
Hold
of
on.
the
Hold
events.
on.
Yeah, sorry, go
Take your
ahead.
hair off of the mic.
Oh, shoo-shoo.
There you go.
My long hair was swiping across my mic, inadvertently creating some ASMR effects, I'm sure, that were annoying. All right, our events. So we are, gosh, we're almost, I put something out of order here. We are rapidly approaching the very, very middle of the month and beyond. And so coming up now this week on the 19th, we have a live Q&A with Amy Wagner. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she will be going over what is medical trauma, what is post-traumatic stress versus a post-traumatic stress disorder. How do you get diagnosed? How would you know if you had this? And what would be the variety of types of therapeutic techniques to help alleviate and eliminate the symptoms of medical trauma? So I found her because somebody in the community almost 8 years ago told me about EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, as a tool, a scientifically proven tool to combat PTSD. And not every therapist offers this. So I sought her out and I did go through this therapy with her. It's very different than just CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a lot more talking and changing the way that your mind kind of processes the information in the narrative that you tell yourself. It was extremely effective, hugely effective. I've gone back a few times for a tune up. I think that that's to be expected, and it was extremely helpful. So I'm going to let her go into all of that detail on what that's about. We have a caregivers virtual support group meeting coming up this Saturday, the 21st. We will then have our Aortic Hope virtual support group meeting the last Wednesday of the month on the 25th. This is open to anybody, whereas the caregivers support group meeting is only for caregivers, and they just have a completely different set of needs and they need a different private environment. So for ours, anybody can join, and we hope that you do and get an opportunity to talk with other survivors and or caregivers like yourself. These meetings are run by people just like you, people who have experienced a lot of the same things you've experienced. So, something for you to consider. You sign up once and you'll be notified by email of all these meetings that pertain to you, and you'll be given a link to join a few moments beforehand. That's our events,
Hmm. And not to mention the amount of caregivers that join the support groups because their survivors won't.
right?
Right?
Yeah.
Like we get that all the time, and I
Hmm.
think it's interesting. Like in December, our caregiver group hosted a gratefulness day of gratefulness, and
Hmm.
we had couples come together and talk, the caregiver and the patient, and I mean these guys have never been in a support group.
Yeah.
Not a one of them have ever been in a support group, and to be able to see the
Yeah.
same thing that I see in the support groups, the same thing I see in the caregiver groups, watching somebody who knows what you're talking about, the lights turn on. Everybody's
Yeah.
lights are laser focused now on
Hmm.
this and how is that and it's amazing. And then
Yeah.
we got our very wonderful right out of the gates in the beginning of the year caregivers helping their survivor tell the story.
Yep. It's very important. And in each of the groups, we do have some guest speakers, physicians, therapists. We're open to suggestions of individuals that can come in and kind of give that presentation in more of an almost one on one environment and give you a lot of attention to ask questions. And of course, the answers are solely meant for you to take back as talking points to your own physicians. But I think the difference between what we present and just Facebook pages is that we do interact more with the medical community. We do allow people to interact more on a we can see and hear face to face with a name type of situation. And a lot of times on some Facebook pages, some of the information you're going to hear can be very scary, can be a little alarming, might not be so accurate or have been vetted. It might be what people are hearing or they're reading on the internet that was 20 years ago when mortality rates were a lot higher. And so things seem scarier. So being a part of a community like this allows you to get the latest information, the most vetted educational information, and just to have that compassion and that support that and their stories, which are very validating. And so it's a different type of setup, and it is private. So this isn't something that you're going to find people, hack into. It's set up and controlled, which is nice. So that's our week. That's our week. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Bo, for joining. And thanks, Josh, for bantering with me. It's always nice when I'm unfortunately here by myself. But I appreciate everyone for joining me today. Look forward to hearing more from all of you. Look forward to seeing the subscribers number shoot up so we can give away some good stuff. So don't forget to click like, click subscribe, hit the little bell so you're notified when we go live, and share it, because you never know what someone else is going to be able to get from the information that you'll be sharing to them. So share it on your pages, let people know about it. And thank you so much. Now, we will not, I don't believe we're meeting next week, because we are out of town attending a conference, everybody who would be doing this. So we might have to skip and go 2 weeks, probably what's going to happen. But we will be okay, and we will see you back here very, very soon. Thank you so much. Take care.